All right, so it's time to move into our third and not final topic. The Andor trailer. We got our first look at Andor, and it looks absolutely fantastic. What
Sorry,
is going on, bro? What is happening?
I'm opening a bag right now.
Okay, what did you get?
We got some mini Starbursts. I haven't had these before.
Never mind. Um,
Listen, I know what you're gonna say. Don't
bro, you
judge
said
me.
you were hungry and you got Starburst.
Oh, wow.
This guy's
I
just
got.
gonna stuff his face in the podcast. Unreal. Um, yeah. So, what did you think overall? The Andor trailer.
mm, it was good. I saw
Yes.
Clone Troopers. I saw the
Yeah.
Senate, but I didn't see the Senate. Um,
Correct.
hold on, I'm trying to. Okay, it was good. I enjoyed it. I'm excited. It's not my most anticipated thing this year, like going like for what we have left, but I'm excited.
So, what I will say about this teaser is that it's um first off, it's fantastic looking.
Yeah, it's very
It
beautiful still.
feels very different, right? It deals with a very different side of Star Wars. Still feels very familiar, but it's definitely feels like almost like I'm watching a wartime propaganda movie, right? It feels like I'm watching uh the Viet Cong take it on America or something like that.
Yeah, I mean,
Just two
literally, just
sides,
look at the posters.
right? You were touching on this,
Yeah, I mean, they literally look like modern day war propaganda.
right? It feels very like civilians trapped, repressive regime, um,
Mhm.
coming in, taking over these cities and stuff. And then we also see Coruscant, so we see two sides of it.
Yeah.
We see Mon Mothma. But she's gonna play a very prevalent role. It looks like in this show. Uh,
Hmm.
and then we see Stellan Skarsgård's character, who's obviously in Thor, as the doc. What's his name?
Eric Selvig.
Selvig. He's gonna play. I just saw his name right here. Luthen. He's gonna play a rebellion uh person. So I'm very curious to see his role. And I'm very curious. We don't get what's weird is we don't get a lot of Diego Luna. We don't get a lot of
No,
Andor. Um,
Andor is not present in Andor.
yeah, it's very interesting.
I hope.
But I'm
I
very
hope
curious.
it doesn't pull what another show did.
The Book of Boba Fett.
Hmm.
Um, but we've talked about on this podcast. We've said that while we're really curious to see Cassian's story, we're more so curious to see the how the rebellion operates, especially in a
Yeah.
world that kind of now just tolerates violence or tolerates repressive regimes.
Hmm.
So how did the people react? How did the people react? Because obviously, the rebellion had to do some dark things. We literally see in Rogue One Cassian kill a person just so we can escape.
Yeah, and a guy who
Uh,
gave him like vital information about the Death
correct,
Star.
correct. A thing that needed to be destroyed, and if it
And
wasn't destroyed,
yeah,
it would have
and
terrorized the galaxy.
and it wasn't just like some oh, it was some Richie rich guy. It was a crippled guy he killed. Like he
Correct. The
an
the dude is literally couldn't.
amputee.
He wanted help from Cassian. Cassian's like, I can't help you, man.
Yeah, and so it's like again, we hear his stories like oh I've been in the fight since I was 6 years old,
Right.
but it's like now we don't get to see him as a 6 year old, but maybe well I don't know, but we get to see what do you mean by the fight? You know,
Right.
we we
What's
we
going
under
on?
yeah we understand there's a fight. There's a fight between good and bad. There's a fight between the rebels and the empire. But what do you mean you've been in the fight since you were six
Right.
years old?
Yeah. What exactly is going on? Is right. I 100% agree with that, Alex. But it's also really interesting to me. It's the fact that we get a lot of Republic looking stuff, right? We
We
get the
saw
clone,
clone troopers. Very
and
weird.
the gunships look very much like Republic gunships. So my thing is that I very much think this is a flashback to when Cassian is young,
Yeah,
right?
I think this is 6 years old.
Right. Because it is talked about by Tony Gilroy, and it's not at Celebration, but it was in the Oh, I have it right here actually. Let me pull it up right here. The recent Vanity Fair article where I have
I'm mad jealous of you, by the way. Mad
um
jealous of you.
I think where Tony Gilroy says like Diego Luna's planet is essentially destroyed by the
Mm,
Empire. So I'm sure we'll see that in the show, and I think that's what most of the scenes are that we see with the clones and with the Republic style looking gunships just painted over.
yeah.
Um, in Imperial colors. And then people were saying at the end of the trailer, you see a hallway that looks very eerie, similar to Camino.
Yeah.
I don't think they're clones. But this
Mm,
trailer is. I don't know what's happening. Like, I don't know what's going to happen in the show. There hasn't been a lot of leaks and rumors about what's going to happen. I'm kind of glad I'm kind of left in the dark with this show because I'm so excited. It's going to take us in such a different direction. But it did confirm one of our theories about Coruscant and the Imperial Senate playing a massive role in the show, and how we wanted it to play a massive role. So, what kind of got you excited from this trailer?
just the feel. It's a different thing with Star Wars lately. We are we're going in a lot of different places with Star Wars. A lot of the
Right,
things don't feel the same. The Acolyte is going to be very different to Andor. Andor's going to be very different to Kenobi, and Kenobi's going to be very different to The Mandalorian, and The Mandalorian's going to be very different to Taika's movie, and Taika's movie is going to be very different to Rogue Squadron. We're
right,
in a very different time in Star Wars where everything is brand new. Um, you know, say what you will, we don't have to go down the rabbit hole, but the sequel trilogy was, I would say, just a very bad remastering of the original trilogy. And so for me, I think the fact that Star Wars is just like, yeah, we're going to veer away from doing what we have done and we're going to go to do things we haven't done.
right.
And I think the fact that we're basically just getting, like, I would say Rogue One is a war movie. Would you say that?
Absolutely. Like Rogue One has war elements, I would say,
Yeah.
right? Obviously
Especially, the
that
second and
final
third act.
the third act especially very much
Yeah.
feels like a Normandy like type of
Yeah.
invasion, like
Yeah.
the Allied
Absolutely.
forces going against Germany. It felt very much like that. Um, so like yeah, and Rogue One, it's a darker Star Wars movie. I think that's fair to say, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean the whole cast dies.
Yeah, first time we've seen that.
But it was originally, as we know, that movie went through a lot of behind the scenes issues. It was gonna be a lot darker. It was gonna be a whole lot darker, like literally a whole lot darker.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't know how they would have done that. Um, but it seems like Andor is going to be that whole lot darker.
Yeah.
We're gonna see like what Cassian does to certain people. Because obviously he's gonna have to do not so good things to get the
Yeah.
job done.
And
Um,
this show is definitely all about showing us that the rebels are the good guys, but they're not good people.
no, no,
Like, you have to think not only from a legal sense, but from a literal sense. The rebels are terrorists.
correct. Now, while
Like,
the Empire is a oppressive regime, the rebellion is like is doing terrible, acts as well, right?
yeah, I
Committing
mean,
acts of
literally,
violence.
Literally, look what they did in Kenobi. They hung a Jedi.
Right.
Like,
Right.
I think it's important to know that Andor is going to show us the grass isn't always greener on the other side.
Right. Right. And I
Mhm.
wanted to also show like the hardships that people who go through the rebellion go through. Like they're
Yeah,
it always seems like they're always happy, they're always hopeful, but like what are they like what is the
yeah.
average rebel person in the rebellion really like?
Hmm.
Right? They're probably been greatly affected by the empire. They're probably poor. They have
Hmm.
nothing. And they will do anything they can to fight against this repressive regime who's taken over their life. Um, and with Cassian, I really want to see like what makes him tick, right? What makes him go?
Yeah,
And at the same time, though, while I want to see him be that person that's slightly more passive aggressive, I want to see um
cold
where
blooded.
that compassion comes in a little bit because he does have some compassion, right? We see it in Rogue
Mm.
One.
Yeah,
What does that come in? Is there a love interest? What's going on there?
right. Yeah,
Um, because you could do a love interest there. There's room to do that.
yeah,
And like,
absolutely.
how does his job get in the way of his like the everyday life? What were his goals and aspirations, right? Just to see that, but also at the same time, I want to see what Mon Moth was doing in the Senate. I want to see the political landscape and how that's
Yeah,
affecting the real world,
maybe
right?
even see Bail Organa again, Bria
Correct.
Organa.
I think he's 100% in it.
Yeah, and so it's again, it's important to know these shows filming so close to each other. Book of Boba Fett, Kenobi, Andor. It's not unintentional. It's
Right.
very intentional. And so I think it's important to know that, yeah, I mean, we could see Bale again. We could see Leia again. We could see teenager Leia.
In the
Um,
Imperial Senate, yeah.
and it's important to know what this takes place, what you said, 5 years before
Rogue One. So
Rogue
essentially
One.
5 years before New Hope.
And another major event happens around the same time, Star Wars Rebels. So we could see our first inklings of the Ghost Crew pre Ezra Bridger.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, that would be really interesting if
yes,
Cassian had an interaction with them.
we know that the Ghost Crew did take place in the Battle of Scarif, and they
Right.
took place in the Battle of Endor. Now, we don't know
Right.
where they were for the Battle of Hoth. We don't know where they were for the Battle of Yavin. We just know that they were there on Scarif, and they were there at Endor.
Right. Correct.
And again, we have to remember at this point in the timeline where Andor takes place, Kanan is still alive. So maybe if there is an interaction with the Ghost Crew, could we see an Inquisitor?
I don't want to see any Force users if I'm being honest with you. I
I think we're almost destined. I think if not, we're gonna see. I think it's almost certain we're gonna see Palpatine in some capacity.
We're kind of gonna have to though if we're dealing with the
We,
set. Well, I don't
yeah,
know. Again, we don't know what Palpatine was like with the Imperial Senate. Very much different. Is it really? It's not really a Senate because Palpatine's the Emperor. Emperors don't. It's not a democracy. It's
and yeah,
a dictatorship.
it's important to know, like in Imperial history, like we have to remember, the Empire only was standing for 21-ish so years.
Correct.
They weren't. It was not a long-standing empire. What
No.
they rise in 19 BBY, fall in 4 ABY or so,
Right.
with the Battle of Jakku. So what is that, like
23 years.
25-ish years?
Right.
You have to think Palpatine only had the Imperial Senate for 19 of those years, because if you remember in A New Hope, Tarkin gets the word that he's shut down the Senate.
Right.
So, and then it's just him calling the shots from now on.
Which is very odd because he's an emperor. Why is there a Senate as it is?
I mean, you have to think it's public appeal.
It's
Like
a
if
show. It's for show. It's a
yeah,
facade.
if
Yeah.
we hear Palpatine, if Emperor Palpatine is in ruling slave trade in the Outer Rim or through the spice mines of Kessel, then see that, oh, we're being ran by a dictator. But if you hear the Imperial Senate has voted that we do this, then it's like, oh, the Senate believes that's what's
Right. Even
best.
though it's Palpatine swaying them. Right. So
Hmm.
like, yeah, I'm very curious to see how they go with that
Yeah, I'm
because
just I'm important
Mon
to see
Mothma,
what.
in my opinion, has been like a character that's just like, eh, okay,
Yeah, I mean, you gotta think like her most important thing that she has ever said in Star Wars is many Bothans died to bring us this information. So it's
right,
just like, is that really the most iconic line you want to have?
right.
Like,
I'm very excited. I'm just
yeah,
excited to see Coruscant again.
yeah, all of
It's
it
been a
looks
long time.
really good. A lot of it also was not shot on the volume compared
It's
to
not.
Kenobi. A lot
This
of it.
none of this is shot in the volume.
Oh, none of it. Okay, yeah, it's all on site. It's all physical set.
A lot of
So
it is physical set. A lot of it, I believe, most of the show was filmed in England and Scotland, so the United Kingdom, and they had a lot of problems because of weather, obviously, and COVID.
yeah.
So it took almost like a year. Like it took a year plus to film this show. Uh, added to the fact it's also 12 episodes.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, it looks really good. Really
Hmm.
well done, and I can't wait to see the juxtaposition of what's happening. Like I said, on the battlefield with the
Yeah.
spies, with Andor, and again, we can see the formation of the rebellion. We kind of see it in Rebels, right? But
Yeah.
we can see the joining of the pacifist rebellion who's trying to get it done politically versus essentially the terrorist,
The war
uh,
criminals.
the war criminals joining together, and how
Yeah.
that intertwines together. So, I mean, it's really excited, Alex. It looks fantastic, like we were
Yeah.
saying.
It's a
Um,
show that right now I don't know how it's gonna start. I don't know how it's gonna end either.
yeah, it's very much up in the air, and that's what makes me so excited. But I know
Yeah.
it's going to be darker and grittier, and
I hope.
I think
I hope.
Diego Luna obviously really loves Star Wars. It seems just by
Yeah.
talk about the character. And Tony Gilroy, I think, is fantastic.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm hoping we're getting the darkness of Moon Knight for this show.
I hope so too. I hope so too. Yeah, I'm really excited. I'm really excited for Andor. You got anything else you want to talk about with it, or
No man, I'm just excited. August 31st, man. Can't come soon enough.
August 31st, 2 episode premiere? We're gonna get the show basically for 3 months because it's um 12 episodes. So, really curious to see how it all plays out.
Yep, agree. 110% with you.